Painters. In today's video, I'll be going back to Mechanicus after so long by painting Thulia Ghuld. I think this will be a pretty fun project since the last time I painted something that was this big for Mechanicus was Belly, and I mean, he wasn't a tutorial, but I think it'll kind of go the same way, so I think it'll be a pretty fun time. But I am painting her in 4 different sections, so I'll painting, her limbs, her robes, her accessories, and weapons. So it's gonna be a lot, but it's a bit easier to, digest, so I think it'll be good. So I guess let's stop chatting and let's get to painting. Before we get into painting, let's prime the model in Chaos Black from Citadel. Also, just a heads up, I did lose her small right arm, so I had to do some kit bashing, so she looks a little bit different. Just don't mind that. Now let's get to painting. I'll try to section out the model to be more digestible, so let's just start with her appendages and face. First up, use LEADBELCHER to base coat all of her joints on her limbs. This does include the rods on her front claw feet, as well as her back feet and tubes under the cloak. Now we can use NULN oil to wash all over the silver. Once dry, use RUNEFANG steel to highlight all the edges around the joints. Now we can base coat both her flesh arm as well as her face with rust gray. Then with FENRISIAN gray, highlight all of the wrinkles on her face, as well as the upper arm, knuckles, and fingers. Lastly, use WRAITHBONE to coat her left eye. Since we've been painting the face, we can continue on with her mask by base coating both her mouth wiring and eye wire, as well as the inside sections of her box she holds in her lower hand with HASHUT copper. Then we can base coat her mouthpiece and wire rings with LEADBELCHER, as well as the corner poles in the box in her hand. Next, use AGRAX EARTHSHADE to wash both her mouth and eye wires as well as the box. Once that dries, use NULN oil to wash over all the silver sections on her face and the box. We'll postpone painting the hazard wires near her mouth till later, since I'll be painting all those wires at one time. But now we can base coat the limbs themselves, as well as the plate on her face with USHABTI bone. This may take a few layers for full coverage. Once base coated, we can use a mix between 1 drop AGRAX EARTHSHADE with 2 drops contrast medium and wash it all on the USHABTI. Once this fully dries, edge highlight all the limbs with WRAITHBONE. Next, let's finish up the big claws on the front by base coating them in MEPHISTON red. Then with REIKLAND FLESHSHADE, wash all the red sections on the claws. Once that fully dries, go ahead with Evil Sunz SCARLET to edge around the red panels. Now we can finish up all these front claws as well as paint the rivets on her limbs by base coating the spikes with LEADBELCHER, followed by a wash of NULN oil, and then highlighting the tips with RUNEFANG steel. And the limbs are complete. Next up, let's get her robes and armor done. Let's start with her robes and hood by base coating them in KHORNE red. This next step can be optional, however you can either hand paint or attempt to use some transfers to add the Mechanicus design onto her cloak. I'm going to attempt the hand painted way by using CORAX white and start by painting the line around the bottom of the cloak and hood. Then paint the squares above that line, making sure you can equally space out the squares as best you can. And if need be, you can use KHORNE red to fix up any mistakes. Once the design is complete, go ahead with AGRAX EARTHSHADE to wash all of the fabric. We're wanting it to be a deep dark red compared to her bright red armor, as well as dirty up that white design. Once fully dry, we can use MEPHISTON red to start highlighting the cloak. This includes all the creases in the cloak as well as the edges of the fabric. Now we can paint the smaller highlights on these creases with Evil Sunz SCARLET. We can finally continue onto the armor by base coating each piece of the armor on her torso, butt, back, and shoulders with MEPHISTON red. Once that's base coated, we can then paint all of the armor trim with HASHUT copper as well as the fan on her back. You can see that I forgot about the fan, but just make sure you don't forget. Then we can use REIKLAND FLESHSHADE to wash both the armor panels as well as the trim. Once that's dry, we can quickly go ahead with Evil Sunz SCARLET to highlight the creases on her apron armor. Next, we can continue on with the silver sections on the armor. That includes several portholes, fronts, rivets, her spine, and the back fan pulls with LEADBELCHER. And as usual, I'll do the same steps with washing the silver with NULN oil, followed by a highlight of RUNEFANG steel. Then we can highlight the HASHUT trim and fin with Liberator Gold, and the robes and armor is complete. Now we can continue on with the axe, gun, and spiders. We can get the little spiders out of the way by base coating their body with KHORNE red. Next, paint their armor trim with HASHUT copper. Now give both that red and copper a wash of REIKLAND FLESHSHADE. Once dry, edge highlight the KHORNE red with MEPHISTON red. Next, we can base coat their legs, head, and tube connecting with them with LEADBELCHER. Then followed by a wash of NULN oil, and then an edge of RUNEFANG steel. All that's left on the spiders will be their eyeball, which will be base coated with white, which I use VALLEJO white, followed by an overcoat with TEMPLEGUARD blue. Now we can continue on to the spear and gun. Let's start off by base coating the axe handle with ABBADON black. This mainly is for cleaning up the paint from the previous steps. Once base coated, you can either edge highlight or carefully dry brush the handle with Eshin Gray to pick up the detail on the design. Then with LEADBELCHER, go ahead and paint the top section of the axe, as well as the boxes down the handle, as well as base coating almost all of the gun. Here's what it should look like after the base coat. Next, let's base coat the rest of the axe as well as the gun with HASHUT copper. And now we can start washing. So first, wash the silver with NULN oil. Once this layer is fully dry, go ahead and wash the gun with a second coat of NULN oil, since we're trying to give it a darker tint. Once that dries, we can then go ahead with REIKLAND FLESHSHADE to wash the HASHUT copper. Now that all the washes are full and dry, let's begin highlighting the metallics first, using RUNEFANG steel to edge highlight all the silver sections. Then with Liberator Gold, highlight the copper sections. Now we can start wrapping up the weapons, starting off by base coating the few lights on the axe, as well as the gun coil and tip with Vallejo white. Then go ahead with about 3 parts TEMPLEGUARD blue and 1 part white, and overcoat the white base coat we did previously. You can then add a highlight to this blue by mixing more white into that mixture and dot highlight the blue lights as well as the upper half of the gun coil. And the gun is basically complete, so let's focus on the axe. Let's finish up the Mechanicus symbol by using more Vallejo white and paint half the gear on your left as well as the side of skull to your right. Then clean it up by using ABBADON black to paint the opposite sides of the gear and skull. Now onto the tubes connecting the axe to her body, base coat in Stegadon scale green before adding a highlight in the middle with TEMPLEGUARD blue. Feel free to mix these two colors together to smoothen out the gradient between the Stegadon and TEMPLEGUARD. And her gun and spear is complete! Lastly, onto her plethora of accessories. It does look like there's still a decent amount left, but these should go by relatively fast. Starting off with the tubes, let's dry brush all the ribbed tubes with LEADBELCHER, like the ones connecting her backpack and servo skulls. I recommend the dry brush over a regular one, just to be able to cover just the edges. Next we can base coat the tube on her stomach and arm with ABBADON black, before using a bit of Eshin Grey by highlighting the tops. And now we can get the hazard striped wires that are on our backpack, servo skull, and stomach done by base coating them with YRIEL yellow. Then go ahead with ABBADON black and go down the tubes creating a diagonal stripe. I like to get all the stripes done on one side and then just continue doing so while rotating the model, where you can then finally connect the lines together. Next we can get the skulls done by base coating them in Steel Legion. Then with ZANDRI dust, highlight the skull like on the top of the head, the brows, cheeks, and teeth. You can then smoothen out the highlight by mixing the two paints together and glazing between the highlight and base coat. Then with straight ZANDRI dust, you can go ahead and base coat the servo skull's parchment before highlighting most of it with USHABTI bone. Then go ahead and highlight with WRAITHBONE. You can then go ahead with either ABBADON black or I use RHINOX hide to add in the words onto the parchment. And now let's try and wrap up this model with a few steps left. Let's base coat the backpack and her radar screens with ABBADON black, mainly to clean it up from previous steps. Then with LEADBELCHER, base coat the servo skull's metal attachments, the knobs and antennas on her radar screens, as well as her backpack, including edge highlighting on the back base of the backpack, then the plate and vial on her shoulders, and the canister holder on her hip, as well as her eyepiece. Next, with HASHUT copper, base coat the bulb on her upper back, the plate on her backpack, and the rims on her eyepiece. Now that all the metallics are base coated, we can wash the silver we painted previously with NULN oil, as well as washing the HASHUT copper with REIKLAND FLESHSHADE. Once both the washes are fully dry, go ahead and highlight the silver section with RUNEFANG steel, followed by a highlight with copper with LIBERATOR gold. Next, finish up the Mechanicus symbol on our backpack using the exact same steps as we used on this axe, using ABBADON black and VALLEJO white. All we have left are some lights and screens. So let's start with the couple blue lights by base coating them with TEMPLEGUARD blue. This includes the light on her backpack and on the light on the right side of her hip. Then you can add in a dot highlight by mixing both TEMPLEGUARD blue and white. The next light will be green, so base coat her eye lens, the bulb on her radar screen, the radar screen itself, and one of the lights on her hip with WARPSTONE green. Then add dot highlights to the lights, as well as edge highlighting the screen with mood green. And lastly, we have red lights, which will be base coated in MEPHISTON red on our radar screen bulb, and the last light on our hip. And then just do a dot of highlight with evil SUNZ. And you finally finished Thulia Ghuld. I hope you liked today's video. This video did take definitely longer than I thought it would be, especially since I needed to get this done before my class starts, and actually class starts tomorrow, so good timing, I guess. But I hope this tutorial helps you in getting a sense of how to paint Thulia. She was definitely a lot to get done, but I think sectioning it out did help a lot, so I hope that helps for you too. And as always, just feel free to let us know what other models you would want painted, and just it could be really anything, 40k related, AOS related. Just give us ideas and we'll maybe get to it. But as always, if you'd like and subscribe as well, we'd really appreciate it. It would really help us a lot and we would love it, so thank you. Other than that, we'll see you in another realm.